watching Startup Central with me, Nayantara Rai in New Delhi. This is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated to startups, technology, innovation, disruption, you name it. If it's on New Economy, it's going to be right here on ET Now at 6 p.m. You know, of course, the biggest disruption that we have right now in the world is COVID-19 turning out to be the black swan. Whatever you did, you couldn't have been prepared for it. Whatever you're doing now, you're still underprepared for it. But having said that, we're all working from home. Schools are shut, colleges are shut. One of the ways that we have actually seen EdTech pick up exponentially is because of this work from home phenomenon. The fact that schools are shut, colleges are shut. A lot of apps, Byju's, Unacademy, Topper have seen exponential growth. They've come out with new tailor-made products for children as well. Unacademy, that was in the business of competitive exams, is now holding live classes for school children. Byju's has also rolled out live classes. But you know what they say, that famous saying, if your foundation isn't strong, it's all going to come tumbling down. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put the spotlight on my next guest. It is Square Panda. Joining me here is the Managing Director for Square Panda's Indian operations, Ashish Jalani, joining us here. Ashish, good evening. First of all, I hope you, your family, and the entire team at Square Panda is indeed safe and healthy. Having said that,
Absolutely.
You folks are focusing on very young children, an age group of 2 to 5, to make sure that the building blocks are indeed in place, very strong. Before I get to the specifics, do you want to tell us what it is that Square Panda does, how it teaches children so early with technology?
So Square Panda is a Silicon Valley-based company. We started about 4 years ago. The main vision of the company is early childhood literacy, right? English being at the core of it. And we have offices in the US, in India, and in China. We have about 90,000 kids that currently are subscribed to our platform globally. We've got about 3,000 schools in the US. We've got a lot of B2C expansion in India as well as in China. Now, India, we're just getting started, but yes, absolutely. We teach young kids, and that's all we concentrate on, between ages 2 and 8, actually, not 2 and 5. It goes all the way up to 8 years old.
How do you teach them? What's so special about Square Panda or your app, Square Tales? How does it work exactly?
Sure, absolutely. So we combine both digital and physical learning, right? So our apps, right, are very engaging, character-based. They have adaptive algorithms that run in the background that personalize the experience for each child, right? As they learn digitally, we also provide resources where they can actually use that knowledge in physical environments, right? Take Square Tales, for instance. Square Tales, the children actually come on our app. They learn to blend words together. They learn the letter sounds. They figure out how to actually pronounce the words. Once they're done digitally, we provide them a PDF download that the parent or the teacher can download and actually have the child without the app start to read, right? And the concept is use digital and then transfer it to physical.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit about what it's been like in India? Have parents responded? You're still relatively newer in India. I believe you opened your offices in 2018. It's one of the biggest offices that you have outside the home country in the United States. But having said that, what's the experience been like? Has it been easy convincing parents that this is a product they must invest in, they must get for their kids?
Absolutely. I think Indian parents do want the best for their child. We know that being here. And so a new product like ours, the parent, all they want to know, or even the teachers of the schooling system, all they want to know is, are we going to be able to show some additional growth in the child, right? And we have been able to convince them, right? What we have been able to say is that, listen, 85% of the child's brain develops before the age of 5. So we need to be able to help the child set their foundations right, either at home or in preschool or primary school or whatever it is, early enough, because then that rest of their life, they're going to use these foundations to build everything on top of.
And it is what you're proposing still very new. It's in uncharted territory in that sense. We've seen ed technology, for example, really education technology pick up for older children. But for younger children, what's the experience been like? I totally get it. Your foundations have to be straight. If you don't know 1 plus 1, you're not going to be able to do more difficult math or even algebra for that matter.
So with younger children, obviously, because we concentrate on reading as our initial product for these young learners, parents do have a concern around, do we hand over a device to them at this young age? And we agree, right, that they should not be handing over a digital device. But with 15 or 20 minutes a day that they spend on the digital device, that's more than enough for our platform to help the child start to build their foundational skills. So yes, the young children, this is an uncharted territory, but as parents start to use the screen time for more educational purposes, they realize that there's a lot of learning that the child can have while using apps or platforms like ours.
I believe I want to talk a little bit more about the app. So before I go into the specifics, you want to use this opportunity to tell all the parents that are tuning in, all of those from the education field, to be parents, anyone interested, on how it is that the app Square Tales works?
Absolutely. So SquareTales, like I said, it's an early reading product. The way we believe in teaching is we do not teach all 26 alphabets at one time. What we do is we start with 8 alphabets that are easy for the child to pick up. With those 8 alphabets, the children learn to sound out those alphabets and then blend them together to create words. With those simplistic words from 8 alphabets, we're able to get the child to start to read, right? So at the same time as they're learning the alphabets, they're also very quickly starting to read. So Square Tales basically allows the child independently to learn how to blend these sounds together to form words. So when they see a new word in the future, they're going to be able to use this knowledge to start sounding out those words by themselves. And that's why we say that the children become more confident and independent when they're using Square Tales.
So what do you mean by you use only 8 letters? I would like to caveat here, I'm not a mother, I'm not teaching any young child, but I'm curious, you're saying you're using just 8 alphabets to teach children, preparing the ground for them to start reading. So is it just random 8 alphabets that are chosen, or is it, let's say, like A to H?
They're not random. They're obviously research based, and the 8 we start with are SMAP, TFIN. The combination, our research team believes, and obviously our research team includes a bunch of neuroscientists that do all kinds of research on children, believe that with these 8 letters, the children can start forming 3-letter words, okay, very quickly, right? MAP, SAP, etc. So we start with that, and then as the children progress, we keep on adding 4 more letters at a time, okay, until they reach all 26. But the concept is that the first set only contains 8 letters, and the next set, then we may add 4 more letters, and then 4 more letters. So that's the concept that we work with.
Okay, so that's how you choose, and I couldn't help noticing that there are no vowels that are selected in those 8 random alphabets. So what does it do with these 8 letters exactly in the app? I would imagine use light, sound, and all of that to just get the kids to understand, to learn, and comprehend.
Basically, what they first sound, the first basic concept is they need to understand letter sounds, right? What is the sound of that letter, the phonics, right? Once they start to understand the phonics, what we teach them is how to blend it. And this is a proprietary mechanism that we've built in Square Tales that lets them blend these sounds together and learn to blend things together to start learning a word. And then there's a context. that is based for the child, right? They see an image, they see a video, they see an animation, and that sets the context on the word for the child. So as far as they start learning it, reading it, they also start comprehending it by seeing the context that we provide to them. Now, as they get a few words learned, then they go to and start reading a simple story, right? And these words are usually CVC words, right? There's a consonant, there's a vowel, there's a consonant. So there are three letters with a combination of those three. And then they go and start reading. Now, as we move, we may move to CVCC words and other words as we keep on adding more letters to the repertoire of the child.
And how do parents assess how the children are doing? Is it what, a report card system for even 2-year-olds?
No, absolutely not. I mean, yes, there is a system inbuilt that tells the parent how the child is progressing and what skills that they're picking up, how many words have they completed properly, how many books have they completed, etc. But what parents notice first is the conversational skill the child develops, right? I'll give you an example. More and more kids we work with, we see that they start using these words in their daily talk, right? Even if the daily language is not English, they will start to understand the word because they've learned it, and now start inserting that while they talk to their parents or while they talk to their friends, etc. So the difference or the progress that the parent is going to see is right in the child as they start conversing in English.
Need, I mean, you're not going to leave a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or even a 5-year-old, heck, even an 8-year-old alone with the device, right? You'll then allow them to just fiddle around. I've seen how kids are pretty good with these devices today. They'll get distracted. So typically, how long is the recommended time to spend on the app? And I would imagine it's under the supervision of the parents, and that would be very important, I would imagine.
Absolutely. So parent or teacher or whatever adult, right, that's involved in the process. What we believe is all we need is 15 to 20 minutes, right? We want to keep it under 20 minutes with the young children that we're dealing with. We want to make sure that they limit the screen time. And what you also notice is the way the app is built and the activities are there and the animations are there, the children need to interact with it. So it's unlike a TV program or a cartoon that they would be watching. Here they interact with the app, as thus they actually are using more of their sensory skills than normally just any screen time, right? So we recommend about 15-20 minutes a day. And you're absolutely right, we don't leave it with the child. This is something that we believe actually a parent should spend time with their child reading these books, right? Reading is the fundamental skill that they need to teach their child. So this is one of that time that they would sit down, put the child in their lap, actually do the digital learning, close the tablet, bring out the printout, let the child start to show the parent that they actually are understanding by reading the physically printed piece of paper as well.
Can you share any anecdotes on how SquareTale, Square Panda has actually helped children in India? I'm sure you get feedback all the time from your clients.
Absolutely. So I'll give you two examples. One out of Mumbai, because the child has some exposure to English, not a great deal, but he was struggling with letter sounds, letters, even words, vocabulary, pretty much all of it. He was about 7 to 8 years old. What we did was we gave him Square Tales for 10 straight days, right? On the 11th day, we noticed that he's actually starting to read the first book. We have actually sets, right? And there's 5 books per set. So he read the first book of the first set. Fast forward, week 5, we go back and look at the child. And again, mind you, there is no other intervention right now with this child, right? The only thing they were doing was playing Square Tales for 15-20 minutes a day. After 5 weeks, we find out that not only is he reading all 5 books, but he only used the digital app for the first 2 books. He practiced the first 2 books on the digital app, and from the learning on how to blend the sounds together, he was able to read the next 3 books. okay, and without using the app. That's just one example. I'll give you one more, just a completely different example. This other child is again similar age bracket, about 5, 6 years old, has no exposure to English at all, not at home. They don't even hear a word of English. And when we went in and gave them Square Tails, their first challenge was obviously the digital literacy. So quickly, end of week one, these kids are starting to learn how to use that tablet, how to use the app. Ultimately, in 3 weeks, we find that the child is actually starting to read a few books. Fast forward it to about 6 weeks, and the child not only is reading the 5 books that they have practiced in set one, but they're also starting to read unknown words, meaning the words that were not covered in the book, but carry the same set of letters that we have actually taught through this first set. Okay? The other great thing we saw was that the child's pronunciation was very neutral. Usually, when we learn a language, there's a huge pronunciation issue because we are learning from the pronunciation we hear. When our app is pronouncing, obviously there is a neutral accent built in, and the child exactly picked that up. So these are just two examples of many of how our app is being used and how children are actually learning to read English, and not just read, but get conversationally fluent in English.
So tell me something. How much does all of this cost? Is SquareTail a free app? You have to purchase it. What kind of subscriptions are we talking about?
Absolutely. So we've actually have the first 5 sets of books available free. We want parents to try it. We want teachers to try it because that's the only way to know the efficacy of our system, right? Once they try it, we have an annual subscription that goes for about $17.99, or if they choose to pay monthly, it's $199 a month. But we've kept the price point low enough where any parent should be able to use the app for their child and see a difference that it can make for them.
So do you have any fundraising plans in India? How's all of this funded? Is it funded, from your parent company? Incidentally, I'm a huge fan. Loved him growing up. Andre Agassi is, of course, an investor too on the board. How are you guys funded?
So currently, like you said, Andre is one of our largest investors. He's also our chairman of our board. He is a very big education entrepreneur, by the way. So he has invested a huge amount of money in the company. We are actually we're in the middle of still finishing our Series C round. And we'll probably be completing that over the next couple of months. Then next year, we'll probably look at a Series D. So we are funded. And that's how we spent most of our money in R&D and developing products and expanding into these markets like China and India, because they're the two largest markets for English-speaking children. So.
I'll make this one of my final questions just to understand it a bit more. You talked about how important it is for the teachers to also be on board and to make it accessible. So having said that, what's your business model? Is it working primarily individually, retailing, selling, marketing to parents, or also do you look at schools, for example?
So we actually have 3 models, right? We are like we're talking about for parents, obviously, for them to download the app and use it with their child at home. We do have a model that's a little bit different for schools and school chains, where there's some value add. And then we have a very comprehensive model that we are working with a few government states to roll this out across the full pre-primary and primary government schools in those states. So we have all 3 models, and we think that in India, these 3 models combined can give us the amount of people that we need to be able to reach to make a difference, right? The whole vision of company that Andy, who's our CEO, and Andre, who's our biggest investor, is that we need to be able to make a difference. It's not only about having a product and going out and selling it, but we need to be able to make a difference to millions of kids that are out there.
So when you want to make a difference, and I've seen several of Andre Agassi's interviews, for example, where he said that education for him was not a choice, how he had to drop out, and that was for professional tennis, but that actually made him realize how tough life can be when you don't have access to education. And you guys are also trying to make sure that when children access education, it's with the right foundation. Do you believe Square Square Panda, in its primitive years in India, has managed to make that difference?
No, I don't think we have made the difference. I think we have a long way to go to make that difference. We're poised appropriately if the timing is right, like you said in the beginning of the show. But we still have ways to go to make a difference. Difference is when an X percentage of the country finds the benefit from using our app, right? It's not only about learning English, like I said, but one of the things that you realize in most countries, when English, a lot of the people that know English can read and write very well, but when it comes to conversational English, they struggle, and this stops them from progressing further, or at least where they could be, right? Here, we want to make sure that at a young age, at a very young age, actually, we do give the children the tools to ensure that not only are they literate in this language, but they have the conversational skills to be able to make a difference with English.
Right, so that's Square Panda, believing it has a long way to go to make a difference, and it's amazing work that's being carried out. With that, Ashish, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to join us live right here on Startup Central. Stay safe, stay healthy. All the best to you from our entire team at Startup Central. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. Many thanks for watching.